Want to say on behalf of the Bill Lane Center for the American West how grateful we are for the partnership with SIEPR and John Chauvin for the collaboration that has now produced 4 annual State of the West symposia. And John, it's just been a pleasure to work with you. And I know I'm the former director of the Bill Lane Center, but I know I speak for the current director, Bruce Kane, as well, in saying thanks to SIEPR and all the SIEPR staff and all the SIEPR fellows for this wonderful collaboration. Now, there's another thank you I want to say tonight, and it is to the Eccles family, 2 representatives of which are here, Spencer Eccles and Randy Quarles, because we just announced officially, I believe yesterday, that the Eccles family has made a magnificent $4 million gift to the Lane Center to help us carry on our work in the years ahead. So Bruce Kane and all subsequent directors will be officially known as the Spence and Cleone Eccles family directors of the Bill Lane Center for the American West. So this will make it impossible for them to have business cards because there's just too many words to put on a card. Our tradition at this symposium is to hear opening remarks from one of the 4 presidents of one of the 4 Federal Reserve banks that serve the American states, the Western states, and to have our closing remarks offered by the sitting chair of the Western Governors Association. And tonight that happens to be Brian Sandoval, who is the governor of Nevada. And like other people who've been on this platform today, Governor Sandoval has a distinguished career as a public servant. He has served in the Nevada legislature. He was the Nevada Attorney General between 2002 and 2005. The first Hispanic elected to statewide office in the state of Nevada. He served on the U.S. District Court as a George W. Bush appointee from 2005 on until he was elected governor of Nevada in 2010. And he was reelected last month with 70+% of the vote. Jerry Brown only got 59%. Some of us thought that was pretty impressive, and the 2 governors actually met earlier today, I happen to know, and I'm sure they compared notes on their relative performance. So I hope we can give Governor Sandoval this evening at least a 70% reception here to Stanford.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It really is a privilege to be here, and we've had a very nice conversation at the table, and I wish I had the opportunity to sit down and visit with more of you because I thought the conversation was very well. I want to start with a story because sometimes I don't get such a welcome, and but here's a good story. It's almost a year old now, but I was in Washington, D.C., and the national governors meet in Washington for an annual meeting, and one of the highlights of that event is to meet at the White House and meet with the president. And after that, the Western governors were given an opportunity to meet with the president in the Situation Room, which was very humbling and a big honor to be there. I was also sitting as the co-chair of the Education and Workforce Committee. And then thereafter, I traveled to Delaware to meet with the Delaware governor, and we had reached the first interstate poker agreement that had been signed. But it was a pretty good few days. I was feeling pretty good about myself, and we were at the Baltimore airport coming home, and I travel sometimes and I'm escorted, and my escort is armed, and he was talking to the gate agent, and they were in conversation, and they were looking at me, and the gate agent said, "Well, who are you escorting?" And pointed at me and that gentleman over there. And the gate agent said, "Sir, don't you know that prisoners are supposed to be handcuffed?" That is an absolute true story. But in any event, it is nice to receive this welcome at Stanford. I found my most cardinal red shirt and tie today to be here. But it really is a privilege to be here with all of you. Just briefly about my background. I mean, I have been very honored to serve in many different capacities in the great state of Nevada, but I grew up in a small town called Sparks, Nevada, that is adjacent to Reno. And we lived in a rural area on about 5 or 6 acres, and I grew up raising sheep. And my first job was cleaning up sheep pens. That was my job. And as I tell people now, it's very good practice for what I am doing now. But no, last Tuesday was a great evening, or the week before last Tuesday, and it really is a privilege and honor to serve as the governor of the great state of Nevada. And in all seriousness, for a young man who grew up in Sparks raising sheep with 2 parents that were not professionals, that had no political connections, it really gave rise to what I tell the kids in Nevada, is that the opportunity is still there to grow up and be whatever you want to be, but you just have to work for it. But I wanted to call out Pat Mulroy, who I think is the only other Nevadan in the room. Give her a big hand. Yeah. No, and Pat is a great Nevadan, and what she has done for our state in terms of water policy and what she has accomplished is what I like to talk about as has a generational impact. And there are people for decades to come that are going to benefit, and our state economy is going to benefit, and the future well-being of our state is because of you. And I really mean that, Pat. And recently I appointed Pat to the Nevada Gaming Commission, and that is the regulatory body that oversees the gaming industry in our state and has the final say. It is probably the most sacred appointment that a governor can make in the great state of Nevada. Seriously. And I appointed Pat to do that, and she's doing a fabulous, fabulous job. So thank you, Pat. So I am going to get into my formal remarks. And so it was exactly 143 years ago tomorrow that Horace Greeley, congressman, newspaper editor, and presidential candidate, penned his famed reply to R.L. Sanderson, a young correspondent who had written to Old Honesty seeking career advice. This is what Greeley wrote. I believe that each of us who has his place to make should go where men are wanted and where employment is not bestowed as alms. Of course, I say to all who are in want of work, go west. Go west. It is a commanding declaration full of energy and optimism. It is also freighted with the pioneering excitement attending Western migration in 1871. As exciting as Greeley's advice may have been, it was not idealized. In his letter, Greeley asked, "But what can you do? Can you chop? Can you plow? Can you mow? Can you cut up Indian corn?" Yes, opportunity was abundant, but it was available primarily to those who would sweat and toil and bleed and suffer to settle a wild land. And wild it was. 1871 was an eventful year out west. It was the year of the Camp Grant massacre of Apaches in Arizona Territory and the Chinese massacre in Los Angeles. It was the year that Cochise surrendered to General George Crook but escaped back to his mountain stronghold rather than permit the removal of his people to a New Mexico reservation. 47-year-old Leland Stanford was serving as president of the Southern Pacific Railroad, and Wild Bill Hickok became city marshal in Abilene, Kansas. Life was harsh. The social order was chaotic. Greeley himself observed that the conditions of living are very rude there. So it was incumbent upon the thousands of Western settlers who did take Greeley's advice to establish a new society out west, one that adhered to principles of law and governance, but also respected the culture of the fierce independence, self-reliance, and commitment to freedom upon which the West was settled. That is the American West that all of us have inherited. And tonight, on the eve of the famous letter's anniversary, I would like to report to Mr. Greeley that his advice was sound and that it is still good counsel. The state of the West, my friends, is strong. In recent years, the West has led the nation in economic recovery and new economic activity. The 4 states with the lowest unemployment rate in the country are all in the West. When measured by last quarter's income growth, 5 of the top 6 states are in the West. The domestic energy boom has been especially pronounced in the West. And I promise not to say something about Nevada, but I have to. But we're really proud. Nevada has improved its unemployment rate second fastest in the country. Our job creation is second best in the nation. So in survey after survey, the West dominates state rankings for business climate, livability, recreational opportunities, and satisfaction with state government. We even have America's favorite flags and license plates. And I looked, California is number 3 for license plates and number 4 for flags. So that's pretty impressive. But all of that isn't to suggest that we aren't without our challenges. Though our landscapes are renowned for their extraordinary natural beauty, the flip side of their aesthetic virtue is their acute vulnerability to wildfire and drought. Development of our abundant natural resources must be reconciled with environmental conservation. And the federal government's dominating ownership of land in the West poses special challenges when it comes to harmonizing multiple public and private uses. I'm pleased to report that the Western governors are facing these challenges head on. And we had this conversation at the table, and Jim, I'm not sure where you are, Jim Oxbury, who's the head of the Western Governors Association. We actually get along. We talk. We talk all the time, Democrat or Republican, regardless of where we're from. We work together extremely well. We are working across party lines, across state lines to develop coherent bipartisan solutions to national and regional problems. I'm privileged to serve as the chair of this organization that includes 19 Western states. WGA is an instrument of the governors for bipartisan policy development, information exchange, and collective action on issues of critical importance to the Western United States. The great benefit of WGA is the opportunity it provides for governors to learn from one another. Although we wear different political stripes, we are all dedicated to the well-being of our states, and we all love the West. And today was a perfect example of that. And again, we talked a little bit about this at the table, Governor Brown and I. When we were introduced, we were described as the odd couple. And I wanted to know if I was Felix or Oscar. But in any event, Governor Brown and I have really connected. And we work together on Lake Tahoe, and we're really proud of what we've accomplished up there. We share resources on these devastating wildfires. I still recall we had a terrible urban wildfire in Reno where we had to evacuate over 10,000 people. Think about that in a very short period of time. And we needed more help. And I called Governor Brown, and immediately he was sending some help to all of us. That this King Fire that you just had along I-50 or along Highway 50 by Placerville, we sent some of our Nevada resources there to help out. We've had many conversations, the governor and I, about renewable energy and sharing those resources that will be mutually beneficial between the two of us. So we're very excited about the opportunities between Nevada and the great state of California. Now, first topic I want to talk about is drought. Now, during my tenure as chair, I'm focusing the association's attention on drought. This issue plays to the WGA's strengths. It is bipartisan, it is regional, and a high priority of governors throughout the West. Now, I don't have to tell Californians about drought. It has gripped your state for 3 years and is expected to cost you $2.2 billion this year alone. 1.5 billion of that will be borne by the agriculture industry. In Nevada, 97% of our state is in the midst of drought. And here's something I was sharing with the governor today because it was given to me. But this is the map of drought in the western United States. Brown is bad. Brown is really bad. And you can see that California has the great majority of that. And then in Nevada, it's the same thing. Our entire state is gripped by that. So I felt to address this problem that should be the issue during my tenure as chair. So the effort is to minimize personal hardship, economic loss, and environmental damage by improving drought preparedness and response. This ambitious project involves a series of drought workshops across the West, and each of these meetings will focus on an economic sector. This sector-by-sector approach enables us to dive deep into drought-specific impacts on different aspects of the West's economic life. We're assembling a diverse group of experts, and I talked again about this today, I want the drought dream team. And you can all remember that Olympic basketball team from 1992. I want to bring the best drought experts from across the West and across the country together to find those conservation strategies and what we can do to make things better so that we can all come together and have a one-stop shop where people can go and get back best practices throughout the West and throughout the country. We're collecting case studies, identifying best practices, and analyzing the drought plans from each of the respective states. We're developing webinars that showcase in-depth examinations of specific challenges posed by drought. And we'll issue a summary at the WGA's annual meeting, which will be at Incline Village, Lake Tahoe, Nevada next summer. We're very excited of it. I'm very proud of this effort. It illustrates how Western states can come together, learn valuable lessons from one another, and address problems that, like drought, don't respect state boundaries. Now, energy, and I talked a little bit about energy. The West is America's engine room. We have the country's most abundant renewable energy resources, including wind, solar, geothermal, and hydropower. We have the highest quality coal deposits, and Western states are ground zero for recent explosion in oil and natural gas production. North Dakota, and I always give the North Dakota governor a hard time, they're producing 1 million barrels a day. Think about that in North Dakota. It's an amazing, amazing feat up there. Because of the West's leadership on the energy front, the United States is finally on a path to sustainable long energy security. Now, governors reject the false choice between environmental conservation and energy production. We understand that development of our resources must be done responsibly and according to the highest standards of environmental stewardship. We are, after all, accountable to each of our electorates, and that each of them value the West because of its unique and breathtaking natural beauty. We've made remarkable progress on the development of clean and renewable energy resources. And to better realize the potential of such resources, we must overcome obstacles to the development of transmission infrastructure on both public and private lands. So to help us with that, the WGA has developed the Rapid Toolkit. And Jim, thank you for your hard work on that. It stands for Regulatory and Permitting Information Desktop. It's a sort of one-stop shop for the access of information necessary to the development of transmission. Now I want to move to wildlife, and I know that's a big issue as well. We have to reconcile development needs with species conservation. WGA recently unveiled the crucial habitat assessment tool called CHAT. This effort represents an unprecedented accomplishment by 16 states to create an online mapping tool that depicts crucial wildlife habitats on a regional basis. This non-regulatory tool helps to minimize land use conflicts in the pre-planning stages of project development. It's been accessed by people from all 50 states. It's an incredible, incredible resource. We've successfully encouraged voluntary conservation commitments and developed effective habitat conservation plans. Our efforts are recorded in a sage-grouse inventory published annually by the WGA. And we have this issue of the potential listing of the sage-grouse. It could be devastating in Nevada. It could be devastating in other western states. So we're working very closely with the Secretary of the Interior, with the BLM, with the Fish and Wildlife Service, and we're hopeful that through working through that we can have a favorable outcome that balances the interests that are involved. I do want to compliment Secretary Jewell and her willingness to talk to us and work with us and have an intimate understanding of our state's economies, our environments, and our cultures, because we have to live with this every day. You know, I travel Nevada. I have some unique populations in our state. We talked about that in my table. We have people in remote places. I just had a 5-generation family come to Carson City. I mean, I had a little guy at 3 years old in the patriarch of the family, and they told me about the challenges they have out there. And, you know, they count on me to be able to interact with the BLM and with the Secretary of the Interior to find these solutions, because these people work out on that hard land and they need their governors to work with the federal government so we can have those balanced solutions. Water management, and I know, Pat, that's an important issue for you. Western governors are concerned that federal agencies may have forgotten that states have the primary authority for allocating, administering, protecting, and developing water resources. Earlier this year, the EPA and the Corps of Engineers issued a proposed rule intended to clarify jurisdiction of the Federal Clean Water Act. Likewise, the U.S. Forest Service issued a draft directive concerning the management of groundwater resources. Now, governors may have different opinions on the contents of those reports, but we are concerned that these initiatives have been taken without consultation with the governors. And I'm tired of signing letters that I have to send to the federal government saying we want to have input on what happens in our states. I mean, governors, and I'll use the kind word, get a little vexed when we are treated as an afterthought or as an ordinary stakeholder. So we again reach out to the federal government. Now let's talk about, I talk about federal land, and I brought another visual for you. Nevada, a lot of folks don't realize, is 86% federal land. Now think about that. If 86% of your state was controlled by somebody else, this is a map of Nevada, and the red is obviously that which is controlled by the federal government. And so it makes it very difficult with regard to management. And so what we are hopeful and what we have been trying to do is have land exchanges. We feel that it would be in the federal government's best interest and Nevada's best interest to be able to exchange land, particularly on the checkerboard, so that we can put these parcels together. And we've had these conversations at the table again, and it seems really easy, but through the decades it hasn't happened, and it's been several decades since something has happened that has been favorable to our state. There's a bill in Congress right now that has been held up for years that has all the parties agree, and we can't get it through, and it could be extremely helpful. The governors are working together to get these things done. Now, I talked about wildfire. Now, over the past decade, wildfires have increased in size and intensity, and the fire season now extends 60 to 80 days longer than historic averages. And we've been blessed in Nevada. We didn't get as many wildfires as we have recently, but they've resulted in costs exceeding $1 billion every year since 2000 to fight these fires. And when you get in the remote places, particularly in Nevada, they can be devastating. So our problem and our challenge with the federal government is this, is we have these wildfires and the federal government spends the money to fight the fires, and then there's no money left to rehabilitate the property, which makes it even more susceptible to fires later on. And so it's called fire borrowing. And so they're diverting these funds, and it's this terrible cycle where when you don't do that rehabilitation, the cheat draft comes in, and again, it makes it more susceptible to the wildfire. So we are working extremely hard to actually help the secretary so that we can balance those funds and we can bring more money toward rehabilitation so we don't have to keep fighting those fires. You know, it's amazing all the different issues that Western governors have to face. We, as I said, and I hope you've gotten a snapshot of what we have to essentially deal with on a daily basis. And our interaction with the federal government is critical. Our ability to communicate with one another is critical. Our ability to work together as on the Western Governors Association is critical so that we can all come together with these solutions, because at the end of the day, you know, it's for all of you. It's for all of us. And, you know, working with Governor Brown today was very symbolic of that in terms of the drought. Our American West, I started with that story from Greeley because I wanted you to get a sense of what it was like in 1871 and this heritage and what is in all of us as Westerners. We have a unique and rich history. Our landscapes, our topography, and geography are exceptional. But what makes the West truly extraordinary is all of you. You're independent, creative, self-sufficient. You dream big, you work hard, and you approach life with a ferocious passion. We are as diverse as we are talented, and we aim to leave a mark for future generations. I love this diversity, and I hope I can convey to you, I love my state. I really do. And I wake up every day thinking how I can make a difference. And now, as the chairman of the Western Governors, I have an opportunity to do that for all the Western states. I love our diversity, the zeal. I love, you know, I come to California quite often to enjoy the natural resources here. Everything I've talked about and what has happened validates Greeley's advice. Go west. Have you ever talked to somebody who didn't enjoy going west? If not to tame a wild country, then to work in Silicon Valley, or to come to Nevada and work at the Tesla factory. I had to say that. Maybe I'll rub it in a little bit, but that was a big deal, and I'm happy to talk about that some more. But there's so many opportunities in New Mexico, Texas, Arizona, here in California, Colorado, Burning Man. I don't know how many of you have been to Burning Man, but you know, there's some unique experience, authentic experiences that you can't get anywhere else. And it really is a special people. And, you know, I'm going to be in the West as long as I live. And I'm going to continue, as I say, to work hard. There are great things happening in our states. We're really starting to rebound and recover. And we're going to use this organization, the Western Governors, to continue that momentum. So it really is a privilege. And I had said I wasn't going to take questions. I'm happy to take questions tonight. But what I wanted to accomplish is, again, to give you a synopsis or a snapshot of what's going on in our respective states and let you kind of know, you know, that governors work hard. And I'm really proud of the Western Governors because we do collaborate and we have unique issues that you don't get across the country. So, ladies and gentlemen, it really is a privilege to serve as Governor of Nevada. It's a privilege to be here with all of you. I mean, it really is a humbling experience to come to Stanford University and have an opportunity to speak. The last time I was here, I was talking about I was at the Hoover Institute when I was running, and to be able to come back in this capacity, I was a candidate, and to be able to come back as a governor is a really special thing. So God bless all of you, and God bless the great state of California, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you. So questions? Whatever you want to do. Questions? Yes, sir.
With the results of the recent election, is there some chance that Nevada might change its position with regard to the Yucca Mountain Waste Repository?
Well, and the question was, with the results of the election, is there a chance that Nevada might change its position on Yucca Mountain? And I'm an opponent of the storage of high-level nuclear waste at Yucca Mountain. The recently minted congressman from Southern Nevada has said that he might be supportive of that, but as long as I'm governor, I'm going to continue to fight it. I don't think it's safe, and I don't think it's appropriate, and I think the majority of Nevadans feel the same way. Yes.
Tell us more about what the Tesla factory will do for Nevada.
Well, Tesla, and we were the underdog in all of that. We were competing against Arizona. We were competing against Texas, New Mexico, and California. And frankly, when I got that first phone call, I thought to myself, well, that would be great. I mean, we're talking about the largest building in the world. We're talking about a $6 billion investment. We're talking about a project that will bring 6,500 direct jobs, probably 4,000 to 5,000 construction jobs. So, we thought, well, maybe this can be done. And as time evolved and the opportunity to chat and negotiate with Mr. Musk and the other representatives of Tesla, it was very interesting. And we went from we thought we had it, that it wasn't going to happen, and then we began to negotiate in earnest. And frankly, it's a game changer, particularly for Reno. I mean, you think about this project is of such magnitude. Right now, there is not a construction worker in northern Nevada who's without a job. There are hundreds of people working out there. There will be those. It is of such magnitude that the state demographer has had to change the population projections for northern Nevada. Real estate is already starting to increase. We are having to project and develop a workforce for all of this. The first portion of it is going to be open in 2016. The building is a mile long. So for those of you that are runners, it's a 5K around the building. And, we're thrilled because one of my priorities in Nevada was to diversify our economy, and Reno was hit as hard as anyone. And to get a project like this in a new high-level manufacturing area is a really big deal. And yes, and I've been criticized in the LA Times and the Sacramento Bee and several newspapers because we did have to give abatements in order to get this project. But, as I've told the press in Nevada and told others, that is the game now. It is very competitive with the states. And we still feel that over 20 years, it's going to have an $80 to $100 billion economic impact on our state. And and it was interesting to me, there's some sour grapes out there and being critical of me, but there's no doubt in my mind that any other state wouldn't trade positions with us in a heartbeat. And Tesla has lived up to every promise that they have, or every representation or promise that they have made. They're building, and it's ahead of schedule. They've worked extremely well with the state. It's going to be a great partnership, and as Governor Brown says, it's going to be beneficial to the state of California as well. So we're very proud that we were the small state the underdog that wasn't going to get this, and we were able to get this over the finish line, and we think it's going to change the whole trajectory of Nevada. Yes, sir.
Governor, you just talked about your goal to bring more economic diversity to the state of Nevada, Tesla being a prominent example, but let's talk for a minute, if you would share your thoughts about a different kind of diversity. There are 4 majority-minority states in the United States today. They all are Western states: Texas, New Mexico, California, and Hawaii. And you said at dinner Nevada is about to become the 5th.
Yes.
And my guess is that Arizona is probably not far behind, but I'm guessing at that one. So I wonder if you just share your thoughts with us, please, about what are the implications of that for the culture of our region going forward, that we will become demographically the most diverse part of the country by a big measure. And in particular, what are the implications of that for educational systems?
Yeah. And great question. And in Nevada, the Hispanic population is the fastest growing population in our state. And we were way behind. So one of the things that I did in the last session of the legislature, first time in Nevada history, is we dedicated $50 million toward English language learners. And because in our state, the dropout rate for Hispanics is more than 50%. And if these kids aren't reading at grade level by the time they hit 3rd grade, their chances of graduating from high school increase exponentially. So we have made a huge investment in the English language learners. We've created what are called Zoom schools. So we're attacking it in K through 3. Another thing, and I don't know what it is in California, but we also implemented full-time kindergarten in the state of Nevada. It used to only be a half day. And so that was something that I started for the first time. And we also decreased class sizes in K through 3 because that is the workforce of the future. And, it's not going to do us any good if we're not providing the resources that are necessary. So we are working extremely hard in K through 12 to improve that. As I mentioned before, Nevada was hit harder than any other state in the nation when it came to the recession. We were the fastest growing state for over 20 years, and we went from 3% unemployment to 14.5% unemployment in a period of less than 2 or 3 years. And our gaming industry was decimated, and as I said, we didn't have that diversity. So I think, me personally, the way, because of that increase in the Hispanic population, the Asian population, that improving the delivery of K through 12 education is the big priority. We're also, I guess, off on a different tangent a bit, but one of the other things that was made Tesla very attractive, or Nevada very attractive, is our ability to be nimble. And so the first thing that we did when we were announced as the state that is going to receive the Tesla factories, we sent a delegation from all our universities to Tesla, and we are already building the curriculums to develop the workforce, in terms of the certifications, the masters, the undergraduate degrees, the PhDs. So when that factory opens, we want Nevadans to be employed. We don't want them to have to go out of state. So that's not just going to benefit, that's going to benefit everybody. So it really has been an all hands on deck. I'm actually going to be visiting the Tesla factory tomorrow and having more of these one-on-one conversations so that to make sure that we're prepared and ready to go.
So, Governor, you've been more than generous with your time coming here in a busy schedule. There's nothing more precious than your time. So thank you very much for doing this. And I know you have promises to keep and many miles to go before you sleep, so we're going to let you off the hook. I want to say a couple of final thank yous again to you. Also to Jim Ogsbury for helping secure the governor's presence here this evening. To the staff of both the Lane Center and SIEPR, and my colleagues John Chauvin and Bruce Kane, and to all of you for your interest in this great region of ours. Thank you very much. Good night.